Anthony Borgia was a talented medium with a strong gift of clairaudience, meaning he could hear words from people in the afterlife. And he had a gift for automatic writing, meaning he could let his hand go limp and they would write through his hand. Borgia would sit with a pencil in his hand and feel the weight of a warm spirit's hand on his own, guiding the pencil across the paper as though he were taking dictation. The man writing through his hand was a man living in the afterlife named Monsignor Robert Hugh Benson. Benson told Borgia he wanted to communicate the truth about the afterlife because he had been such a skeptic and unbeliever while on earth that he told people things in error about the life after this life. In this series of videos, I present Benson's words spoken from the afterlife, describing life in the afterlife. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. I'm the author of 8 books with the evidence you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Monsignor Robert Hugh Benson was so ecstatic about his new life in the afterlife that he committed himself to telling us, still living on earth, what life in the afterlife is like. Benson asked Borgia to write what he told him in dictation to bring the truth about the afterlife to the earth. He hoped that by putting into print the facts about life after death, he would help banish the fear of death so widespread among people today. The result is several books you can read today with detailed descriptions of the world we will all enter at the end of this life. In this series of videos, you will hear narrations of Benson's own words conveyed through medium Anthony Borgia about life in the afterlife.
This was the hall of literature containing every work worthy of the name. Its interior was divided into small rooms. One room contained the histories of all the nations on the earth plane. To anyone who knows earthly history, the reader will learn for the first time the truth about the history of his country. Every word contained in these books is the literal truth. Concealment is impossible because nothing but the truth can enter these realms. I have since returned to this library and spent much profitable time among its countless books. In particular, I have dipped into history. I was amazed when I started to read the books. I naturally expected to find that history would be treated as we are all familiar with, but with the essential difference that I would now be presented with the truth of all historical acts and events. I found that side by side with the statements of pure fact of every act by persons of historical note, by statesmen in the government of their countries, by kings who were at the head of those same countries, side by side with such statements, was the blunt, naked truth of each and every motive underlying their numerous acts, the truth beyond dispute. Many of their motives were elevated, many of them were bitterly base, many were misconstrued or distorted. There were true narratives of thousands upon thousands of human beings who had been active participants in the affairs of their countries. Some were victims of others' treachery and baseness. Some caused or originated that treachery and baseness. None was omitted. It was all there for all to see, the truth, with nothing hidden or suppressed. These records had no respect for persons, whether they were kings or commoners, churchmen or laymen. The writers had just set down the true story as it was. It required no adornment, no commentary. It spoke for itself. And I was profoundly thankful for one thing, that this truth had been kept from us until such time as we stood where we were now standing, when our minds would, in some measure, be prepared for the remarkable things we learned. So far, I have mentioned only political history, but I also delved into church history, and what I learned was no better than what I learned in the political sphere. What I learned was, in fact, worse, considering that so many diabolical deeds were committed by people who, outwardly, said they were serving God, but actually they were instruments of men as base as themselves. The motives given in our earthly history books don't truly describe the real motives of people involved in so many activities on Earth. Although these books contained complete narratives of the perpetrators of so many dark deeds in the Earth world's history, they also bore witness to many deeds that were great and noble. The great noble deeds were not there to provide evidence for and against any point of view, but because literature had become part of the fabric of human life. People in the afterlife take pleasure in reading. The pursuit of knowledge is far greater in the afterlife than upon the earth plane, since people don't have to be preoccupied with the pressing needs that are imposed on us during our earth lives. We continued our tour by passing through many other rooms where volumes on every subject imaginable were available to anyone who wished to study them. One of the most important subjects among the books is what is called on Earth psychic science. I was astonished by the wealth of literature under the heading of psychic science. There were also books denying the existence of a spirit world that were produced on Earth by people who didn't understand the truth. When the authors entered the afterlife and looked back at their books denying the existence of the spirit world, they had very different reactions to what they wrote in ignorance. They had become, in themselves, living witnesses that proved the falsehoods in the contents of their own books. We were very much struck by the book's beautiful bindings, the materials the pages were made of, and the style of print on the pages. The method of reproducing books here is wholly a process of the mind. As with all else, the author and printer work together in complete harmony. The books that result from this close cooperation are works of art. They are beautiful creations that are lovely to look upon. Binding the books is another expert process, carried out by more artists using wonderful materials never seen upon the earth, since they are of spirit only. As for producing the books, we have our methods of printing in the afterlife. The resulting books are totally unlike those of the earth. We have experts who are artists at their work, and they love doing it. But the books thus produced are not dead things that require a concentration of the whole mind upon them. They live just as much as the paintings we saw were living. To pick up a book and begin reading from it meant also to perceive, with the mind, in a way not possible on earth, the whole story as it was being told, whether it be history or science or the arts. The book, once taken in the hand by the reader, instantly responds in very much the same way as flowers here respond when one approaches them closely. The purpose is different, of course. All the vast numbers of books we saw were there for all to use at their leisure and to their heart's delight. There were no restrictions, no tiresome rules and regulations. Standing with all this enormous wealth of knowledge about us, I was staggered at my own ignorance. However, Edwin reassured me by telling us that we must not let the sight of so much knowledge frighten us, as we have the whole of eternity before us. It was a comforting reminder, and strange to say, a fact that one is inclined to overlook. It takes time to shake off, finally, that feeling of impermanence, of transience that we felt when on earth. On earth we feel that we must see everything as quickly as we can, but in the afterlife, time, as a factor in our lives, has ceased to function.
Anthony Borgia's books are the most complete, fascinating accounts of life in the afterlife provided by a resident of that world. They're further proof you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. Links to the other videos with more accounts of life in the afterlife are in the descriptions below.